will tell you who the Ashkenazis are. It states in the Bible in Genesis 10 in the 2nd verse that Japheth had children. He had sons. His first son was Gomer, and then Gomer had a son named Ashkenaz. Now this Ashkenaz is what we will see or was called Ashkenazi. But his whole lineage of sons, if you read to the end, it said that they are of the isles of the Gentiles. That's right. Didn't say Jews. Didn't say Hebrews. Didn't say Israelites. It said the isles of the Gentiles. Because we know that the descendants of the Israelites are from Shem. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all come from Shem. But what many don't tell you is that when you look at the people who say they're Jews, some say they're Russian, German, some say they might be from Poland. They're from all of these different European countries. But what I love about this thing is that there are many right now who are doing DNA tests outside of Israel and proclaiming the fact that there is no connection. No, I'm not saying that. They are saying this. So I find it that, when you allow people to freely research for themselves and measure themselves according to what Scripture says, according to what other people are saying, you're finding more and more of them are coming out. Now, this video right here I want to show is that this guy who is sharing a little bit about Ashkenazi Jews. Check the video out, and I'll be back.
Ashkenaz is one of the Gentile nations. Now, 80 to 85% of today's so-called Jewry, those who claim to be Jews in the world today, 80 to 85% of them are what is known as Ashkenazi Jews. And an Ashkenazi Jew is so named because he primarily descends from this guy in the Bible named Ashkenaz, which is clearly listed as one of the Gentile nations. Now, the reason for this is that there was a nation of people who were Europeans, white people, known as the Khazars. And in the 8th century after Christ, the whole nation of the Khazars turned unto Judaism. They converted to the religion of Judaism. Of course, it was a false, Christ-rejecting religion. And for a few hundred years, the empire of the Khazars was a power in Eastern Europe, and they followed the religion of Judaism. But eventually they were defeated by the Russians, and they were scattered into Eastern Europe. And so a lot of the Eastern European Jews today are the descendants of the Khazars.
And so a lot of the Eastern European Jews today are the descendants of the Khazars.
So what do you think? Plain and simple, there are those who've done research, and even their own scholars are starting to really wake up and realize that this whole thing of Ashkenazi has its own place because of this war between Palestine and Israel. Everybody's researching. Now, what does that have to do with us? I'm glad you asked. You see, because there are those out here who are saying that we are part of the 12 tribes of Israel. And when you begin to look into the lineage of who Shem is, all the way down, even to the curses that God had mentioned, these people, when you look at Deuteronomy 28, we fit the bill. When you read in whether Isaiah, Ezekiel, whether you read in Leviticus, you're going to find that there are these, I call them point signs, that paint a picture. Let me give you an example. I was talking to a guy today. He was a young minister, and he doesn't believe, or he says he don't know what color Adam is. I said, well, let's just let the story tell you who he was. He had to name the animals. What are all the animals? The 5 big: rhinoceros, lion, elephant. You got the hippo, you got the giraffe, you got the top 5 and all the other safari animals that exist in Africa. You can't find them anywhere in Europe. And we know they would not be able to survive just out in cold weather and the cold and snow and all that there. They would die. So we do know that the Garden of Eden had to be in Africa, because this is where you find the animals. Now, I said, what color was Adam? Adam, yeah. Well, the Bible doesn't say. Well, okay. Did everything God make was perfect? He said, yes. Was the heavens perfect? Yeah, the moon, the stars, the earth, the animals. He said everything was perfect. Was man made in the image of God? Was that good at that time? Yes. Do you think God will create a sun to burn his own people? He stopped and paused. Because the Europeans get burned. They got to run from the sun. Because he mentioned when he walked up to me, when I asked him about the color of Adam, he said, the Bible doesn't mention. And I said, he was black. He said, well, we got melanin, but the white people don't have melanin. Yeah. Let's just stay with the story. Melanin, he said, was made to protect the skin. From what? The sun. If God created everything to be perfect, why would he create a sun that a people would have to run away from? Dodge. See, back then, they didn't have sunscreen lotion. Why would God create such a thing? So we can allow scriptures to be able to tell us exactly who, what, when, where, and how, and why, if we're open up to it. So let those tell you they're